Welcome to episode 14 of the Hunt Backcountry podcast. Tonight, we're talking with Brady Miller. We dive into several topics, including Brady's 200-inch Heartbreak of a mule deer hunt this year in Colorado. We also talk about bow setups for western hunting. And let me tell you guys, Brady has researched pretty much anything and everything to do with bows and accessories, so it's great to get his opinion. We also talk with Brady and the founder of GoHuntcom about some new services and offerings coming on the GoHuntcom platform that I'm sure you'll find interesting. Before we dive into the show, I want to talk about another Brady, and that's Brady Cooper. He left us a review on iTunes, and for that, he's this week's giveaway winner. If you want to enter the future giveaways, it's really simple. Just leave us a podcast review or send us your questions and feedback to podcast@exomountaingear.com. As always, you guys can check out the show notes for this episode at exomountaingear.com/14. That's 14 for this week's episode. All right, here's the show.
The Hunt Backcountry podcast is proudly brought to you by Exo Mountain Gear, makers of ultralight, ultra-tough packs that are designed to do what you love most, hunt the backcountry. Exo packs are designed for efficiency, simplicity, and durability that's backed by a lifetime warranty. To learn more about Exo Mountain Gear, please visit www.exomountaingear.com.
Well, Brady, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on. Steve, how you doing tonight, bud?
I'm great, man. Just, what is it, a Thursday night?
Thursday.
Just hanging out. Busy day at work, and yeah.
For sure, almost Friday, almost the weekend. Are you guys hunting this weekend, either of you guys?
I won't be hunting till late November. I actually picked up leftover Montana deer tag, so I'm going to be
nice.
Going up there. Usually a family thing. I kind of kicked myself. I turned my tag in earlier this summer, and then my dad was like, "Oh, you should try to come up with do the family thing again." So I've been checking the website every day, and just end up picking up one. Luckily, so
perfect.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it should be good.
So you're gonna get to hunt with your dad and that.
Yeah, that's always fun. Try to get him. He's not really a big mule deer guy, so I think this year it's his turn. I mean, last couple of years I've got my brother a good buck, so
yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
So how's the rest of your fall treated you? I know that there's a certain story we're going to get into, but in general, what have your hunts looked like so far this year?
I mean, probably just one of the worst seasons I've had. I mean, it's been fun and everything, but yeah, in terms of bringing home animals, it's been a struggle. I had that Nevada hunt in August and, didn't get anything there. It was kind of my spot got a little populated, and I tried to find some new spots here just randomly through the hunt and struggled to find a really good deer. And then, rolled into Colorado, and that's definitely one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever experienced in my life. And still kind of rolling with that tough weather thing. I just had a hunt with my girlfriend here last week. We were in Nevada. She drew a late rifle mule deer tag, and she's never hunted before, so it was her first hunt, and she had the draw odds for the unit were less than 10%, and we were like, oh man, it's gonna be a great hunt. There's not a lot of tags in the unit, and
sure.
We got slammed with a huge weather storm, and literally we spent 3 days sitting in my pickup truck at 9,000 feet hoping we could eventually get off the mountain because we had 2 feet of snow.
Goodness.
It was 10 to I think 23 degrees out. It was nasty. Thin glass. I had one really good deer spot. It was like a 165-inch this regular 4x4, and every time the fog would clear, I'd run outside, try to glass them. I'd glass them up, and then sure enough, the fog would come rolling back in and wreck everything. So I decided, safety reasons, just to get off the mountain and go find other deer. And the storm cleared. We had a little open window, so we nursed our way down, and it was a hairy experience. But I mean, she's a trooper. Lasted through the whole, being stuck up there in the mountain, and she's ready to go. So
that's impressive.
I know. I was going to ask about how she handled that. I mean, it's one thing to be dealing with the bad weather. It's a whole nother thing, I imagine, to be stuck in a truck with you for 3 days. I mean, she's got to be tough, right?
Oh, yeah. Friends text me, you still have a girlfriend after all that?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. She's really bummed. She was so wanted a deer, but yeah. She has a cow elk hunt later in December and January, so at least she'll maybe get something here this year.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So let's go back to that first hunt in Nevada. What was the big factors, if you look back and debrief now, kind of the lessons learned, or just the factors that made it a tough hunt for you?
I guess the main thing would be maybe, I scouted quite a few areas this summer, but still later towards the end of the summer, I just kept focusing on my same spot that always holds deer, and I was just banking on that. I had a giant deer spotted. I hunted it the year before, and I ended up passing up this deer. I think it was like 35 yards year before waiting for the one I got.
Wow.
And he came back this year. He's bigger than ever. He had a big split on between his G2 and G3. He had a big inline, and I was thinking he was like mid 180 buck, and so I kind of spent a lot of time just looking at him. There's tons of digiscope footage of him. It was just insane. So looking back on it, I probably should have scouted out some more areas. I mean, I have some backup plans, but I think I just, in that type of country, since it's such an easy tag to get, I just need to have more options.
Yeah.
For new spots, and I was kind of struggling to find other areas that had quality deer. I was seeing a lot of deer, but nothing really. I mean, it was like 140-inch bucks were the biggest I was seeing after that.
Yeah.
What is the tag situation in Nevada? Is it even as a resident, do you still have to draw?
Yep, even as resident,
over the counter.
You still have to draw everything, and the only way it'll be over the counter if you have leftovers. And there's a few of the main archery spots in Nevada that do have over the counter tags after the first draw, so they're pretty heavily populated in that mountain I was hunting. But
yeah,
I mean, I just like it because it's big scenery. It's giant mountains. Really get back in there, and it's that's the deer quality is definitely going down because you get out way too many tags, and then they just get kind of harassed a little too hard during the rifle season when they come down lower. But
so in the earlier archery seasons like that, I mean, when I think Nevada, I think dry. I mean, is that the case where you're hunting these deer? And does that make water even a more important factor at that time of year? Or how does that kind of play out in terms of, compared to, say, Colorado that early, where I would imagine you'd have more moisture?
Yeah, so that was the kind of thing I liked about this year, because last year when I hunted the spot, I had a giant, like 80-yard long, 5-foot deep snowfield up on top, and I was getting all my water to the snowfield and just melting it. I mean, there is a few springs, but they're all down at the bottom of the basin. You got to drop like 1,500, 200 feet and get water down there. So this year I was kind of like, wow, there's not a lot of water. Might keep hunters away because they're not going to go way to the peaks anymore. Mm-hmm. And I actually went in early on the hunt and was storing water up on top. I was carrying up a bunch from down below and storing it in big drone dairy bags. And I was like, man, I'm going to have the whole place to myself, all this water, never have to go down and do anything. And until opening day, I got there and there was already 5 guys there that got there the day before me. And
man, were they drinking your water?
Actually, they were camped not even 20 yards from my gear stash. I've been stashing gear in my sleeping bag, my tent, and just slowly making my life easier for opening day, so I don't have to hike all that stuff in. But
yeah,
I mean, I thought they were there a day before me, and they were going to hunt it, and they actually knew I hunted it the year before because they kind of put 2 and 2 together from a video we produced last year. So
really,
that's always a bummer.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, they seen the buck the day before, and they're like, oh yeah, about that big 5x4, and I was like, yeah, well, I'll let you guys have it and move down. And so, I mean, water for them. I mean, I found out later they didn't tag out, but another guy came in there the second week in the season, and he ended up finding me on Facebook and sent me a photo of my buck that I was going after. He shot it, so my deer is now dead. But hey, next season, new opportunity, I guess.
Yeah. So are you going to kind of reverse course on that area and kind of make a new spot your primary with that pressure, you think?
Yeah, I'm totally going to, start from scratch again this year, I think. I've already kind of been looking at new spots. I'm already looking to find a new basin that I've kind of been looking at last year a little bit. I thought about going there, but never scouted it. Just like, well, I don't really need to, and it's a long ways away from where I'm at. So I'm just going to start fresh and
How far are you having to hike in on some of these hunts?
10 to 11 miles. That's kind of my average. Yeah. Last year I had pack goats. This year I went all in by myself. That's kind of why I was stashing gear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think next year I'm going to do the llama route. I have a friend who has llamas in Idaho, and I'm going to rent those from him. And
nice.
How did the pack goats work out? My elk hunting buddy is actually picking up some goats, and I think we're going to give it a go.
Oh, man, pack goats are like gold to a bow hunter.
Yeah.
I would love to own a whole herd of pack goats. I mean, they can only hold 30, 35 pounds.
Right. Uh-huh.
they're basically like dogs. I mean, these goats would not leave our side. You don't have to like lead them anywhere. They just follow you everywhere you stop. They lay down.
Yeah.
In the day when we'd walk off and go hunting, they would want to follow us. We had to tie them up, and then they start crying that we had to tie them up. They want to be in your tent with you. They're like so fun to be with, and
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to watch them interact with each other at camp each night too. So
It's funny. We've been kind of joking about it for a couple of years, and he has land, and out here, with the way that taxes and whatnot are with his land, basically, if he could prove it, there's some sort of farming operation on the land, his tax rate's greatly reduced. And so that's one of the justifications. He's actually going to have some of these goats. He's getting a few 3-year-olds, and then he's going to get a few babies and raise them and whatnot, and potentially, consider using them for other things. But we're going to start hunting with them. And that's kind of the same thing. I mean, he's been researching like crazy. I've been researching some, but yeah, they basically say that some of these guys, like even elk hunting, they'll just hunt with them during the day, because they actually say if they're with you, they're at your side without being in the way. Apparently don't cause a ton of disruption. I don't know. It should be interesting. I was imagining leaving them at camp, but yeah. It'll be funny.
I loved them. We took 2 last year in Nevada. We had 3 guys, and my pack was still loaded with tons of weight. I think, for 3 guys, you almost need probably 4 goats to kind of make your packing a little lighter, but
yeah,
they're definitely great.
Our plan right now is to take 3 of them for the 2 of us, so it should help for sure.
Yeah, it's always nice too. You can like rotate the weight between the 3 and like let one have a little relaxing trip up, and then rotate it halfway through, and what we did.
Cool. We might have to have a whole goat episode.
Yeah.
So let's move on and talk about the next hunt in Colorado. I know it's not necessarily a fun story to talk about, but I think there's so many just kind of lessons and insights, of experience that pretty much, a ton of guys are going to go through for sure, whether it's have gone through it, are going through it, or probably will go through it if you keep bow hunting. But kind of fill us in on your Colorado hunt and Heartbreak and kind of the process that you've been going through with that.
Yeah, so that was a hunt that Lorenzo, the president of GoHunt, and I had planned. We were going to go. We never scouted on foot. The only scouting we did was all through computer, using our insider stuff, and then also using Google Earth. This was, picking out what we're going to go to. And so, yeah, we finally got in there. It was, I think that was like an 8 to 9 mile hike in, and we didn't have ghosts. We just had everything on our back, and we got all the way back in there. And the day before the season, Lorenzo was glassing way up in the basin, saw this giant frame deer. He's like, man, if that deer has a frame I think it is, when we get a little closer, he's going to be something we need to go after. And then we moved camp, got a little closer, and saw him again that evening. And like, no joke, this is the biggest deer I've ever laid eyes on in my life. Like on the hoof, like I've seen, big dead deer, but this deer is giant. We think he goes anywhere from 198 to 203.
Wow.
I mean, he has inlines, he has extras on each side, and it's just a huge, giant frame. I mean, the mule deer of a lifetime for me. I mean, I would just love just a chance to see him, let alone know that, eventually I might have a chance to go after him. So that was the day before the season. And then opening day comes, we glass him up. He's ended up with his bull with another 170-inch deer and a smaller, like 140-inch deer. And so we watched them. We're like, well, if they're going to bed up in this basin, we're going to be able to go after them. And so they've been the whole time. They always stay high in the morning, and they kind of drop down a little bit. But this time they dropped down and went way off to the south and bedded up in this big timbers patch. And we're like, okay, well, let's wait them out, and maybe I'll walk in there, kind of set up. We're thinking if I come down in the evening and get a shot off on them. But not even 2 hours later, we're sitting there glassing, and we're like, man, where's the deer at? Where's the deer? And we went back to camp for a little lunch break, and then came back over there. And we're like, did the deer get up and leave midday? And all of a sudden we looked over, and we saw 2 elk hunters in the area. And we're way in the back of nowhere, and these elk hunters are way up, towards high elevation where elk hunters shouldn't be. And so I think they ended up spooking the buck out of there, we're assuming, because the buck never came out of the timber patch. We could see all around it. And we're like, well, that evening's done. And we ended up finally seeing the deer way down below again, kind of working their way back up to their normal area. And then let them go that evening. Next day, kind of, to hurry it up. Well, I put one stock on him the next day. He bed in that spot we were hoping he'd bed the first day. I got all the way up above him, started coming down in on him, and I got way too close. I think it was under 20 yards, and the deer blew out of there. Had him again at like 55, but it was one of those like, severe cording away shots. Mostly it's been a back shot. I was like, you can't take that shot. So he ran off, went like 150 yards, not really run, but just, kind of alert and rebedded. And Lorenzo was way off in the distance, kind of re-signaled me back up on top and came down on him. And he was working this like mountain goat trail. It was right next to a cliff. I mean, like sheer straight up cliff and like a weird spot for a deer. 2 other deer were bedded down below that I spooked. Below a tree, and they were 45 yards away from me in their bed. I could have easily shot as a 170 deer. I'd been happy with that. But this giant's over there, so I just waited. He ends up coming right along the cliff, and by the cliff, he starts dropping back down to go to the tree. And him doing that, he kept going further and further. He was at like 40, and it was like 43, 45, and finally it was at 51 yards where I took my shot and hit him. And this is where the heartbreaking part happens. I mean, it looked like a great shot. He runs away. I'm seeing blood just pouring out of him. It was like a good severe cording away shot, and the entrance might have slight way back since it was cording away, but the exit when I went down to find the broadhead, I had bone fragments on the broadhead. I had blood all over right there, and I saw tons of blood on him as he was running away. And then I went back and we talked to Lorenzo like, well, let's give him time, just don't rush anything. We have all night, and I look off in the distance, and there's a big rainstorm coming in. We're like, oh, this is not going to be good. But I shot him at 2:30 in the afternoon, and we were like, okay, we'll wait closer till evening. Maybe we'll wait like 3-4 hours and go down in there. And then all of a sudden the rain came before that, so we couldn't even do anything. We're just gonna let the rain go. It rained for like an hour, and then got to evening. We'll wait till morning and deal with him in the morning. And then that night it rained, probably the hardest I've ever seen it rain in my life. I mean, I lived in Montana, worked in Glacier National Park where it rains all the time, and this was insane. It literally rained for like 6 hours that night.
Man.
And then going into the next day, we were looking at photos on like Lorenzo's phone of other deer that had kind of been shot back a little bit like that. And we're like, oh, these deer piled up within 40 yards. He's going to be there. Don't worry. We were all kind of like celebrating back at camp. Like, you just shot like the biggest deer of your life. And I was on cloud 9. I was like, I got to the top of the peak before all this stuff happened the night before, and I actually made cell phone service and called my dad and was telling him about it. And like, oh my gosh, Dad, I just shot like a 200-inch deer, like the second day of the season. It's like unreal. I've never had this happen before. Like,
yeah.
I shot him far back. We think he's still dead. We watched him go in the timber patch. We never saw him come out, So yeah, and like back to the morning thing, we searched all that day. I searched for, I think it was now 3 days total of zigzagging, and it was over 30 some miles. Every day I was averaging 10 to 11 miles of zigzagging, just myself. And then, so add on Lorenzo and our cameraman that were helping zigzag as well, trying to find this deer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so there's so many man hours put into finding him. And, we found one spot that kind of smelled a little funny. We weren't sure what it was about, because we couldn't obviously see any blood. It was all washed away, but
yeah,
and then just that heart, like just being broken down and not knowing what to do, because I just, shot this biggest deer and I can't find him, and just zigzagging every little rimrock canyon, looking around every little tree. And at least we were up in the Alpine, so there wasn't a lot of, thick brush I had to look through, but still it was, a lot of different rimrock areas. And then we got down to the stream bed, and we're like, man, he could go this way, he could go that way.
Yeah.
And we even sat up on the top of the mountain and glassed for him for other days while Lorenzo was hunting and trying to find, maybe a bear would be in the area, maybe some birds, like just nothing.
Wow.
And yeah, I haven't thought about it much since then. I've kind of been putting it off, but yeah.
Sorry to open the wound, my man.
No, yeah, I definitely I made a few social posts about him, posted a picture and then a little video about it, and then kind of forgotten about him. But yeah, it's one I know is going to sting for a long time. The one thing I still kind of unsure about, I did shoot him when he was walking. I think that might have been a big factor in this. I mean, because I just bumped him not even an hour before that. And he wasn't spooked that bad, but he still, spooked out and walked over there and rebedded, and then got up and walked around that mountain goat cliff. But, since the shot was super steep angle, 51 yards, I'm not sure what the true distance was. That was with the angle cut. Mm-hmm. So, it did drift back a little bit, but still I found bone fragments, and it did look like it exited, in the rib area. So it should have caught liver and stuff like that. But
yeah, and then you were seeing the blood. So
seeing the blood everywhere, and like even when he was running down glassing, he even stopped and hunched up once, and I was like, man, he's gonna fall over. And
yeah,
and just have nothing. Still, it's like one of those things where the rain spooked them to do like, the storm was coming and go hold up in some, super nasty little hidden spot he has down there. I don't know.
So did you, I don't know if I missed this or if you mentioned it, did you recover your arrow before the rainstorm and all that and kind of assess the blood on the arrow? Yeah,
I recovered that. Probably waited 20 minutes to even walk down the arrow. I was just shaking so bad I couldn't even crawl down there.
I bet.
But I finally got down there, and the arrow was covered in blood. It had little stuff. It definitely had guts and stuff on it, but it was a good dark colored blood.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of hair everywhere. And like I said, there was little puddles of blood when I was watching him, where I was walking to see where he kind of went in the brush, and then seeing bone fragments too. I was like, man, if he hit bone fragments and broke stuff, and
yeah, for sure.
The arrow didn't itself. The arrow was still intact, so it blew through him, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've questioned pretty much probably every aspect of the situation, from gear to shot to what the weather, obviously. But I mean,
I've this hotheads, I've even thought,
this point, it sounds to me like you really just got screwed by the rain, man. I mean, it sounds like the shot, was far back, but he was quartering, so you should have had good exit. You clearly saw good blood. You had bone fragments. You had good sign on the arrow. I mean, it's of those things. I mean, to me, it doesn't sound like there's necessarily one thing that stands out as coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah, exactly.
But besides the rain, at this point, is there one thing that you're kind of second guessing?
No, it's still that the walking shot thing. I normally don't take a walking shot, but it was one of those things where I was in the back of my mind. I was like, well, I just blew him out an hour ago. So if I whistle or make a noise, is he just gonna dart and run? Is he gonna stand there? And that's kind of the only thing I'm going at right now. I've made countless shots, 50 plus yards. It's really not to brag or anything, but not that difficult for me to do. Practice also at that. And so, the other thing I second guess is maybe we should have went in there right away. Renzo and I talked about hey, should we go down there right now? You have your bow ready. I'll be kind of close by, then maybe stop and glass as you kind of walk in there, see if I see anything running off, or see if he's there. You can put another shot into him.
Mm-hmm.
We were just like, that's such a far back shot, according away. We should just give him time. Every deer and anything I've ever shot with a bow, I just give him time, and it's always, you always find them. Even the ones I've left overnight, it's like they're usually piled up. And he didn't get any pressure. He didn't even know it was there. Like the other deer, the two other bucks that were with them, they just ran down the hill 50 yards and stopped and watched him it was like a death run. He was literally, I can see it we recorded this hunt for a video as well. So you can see him just trucking down the mountain on a death run. They just sat there and watched him. They didn't even follow the buck at all. He wasn't concerned with where his, two bachelor buddies were. And just weird that rain though. That's what keeps going back to. It's just killed us. We had no blood trail. We had nothing to go off of besides where he went to in this little basin in this timber patch, and we never saw him come out. And we thought, he's piled up in there. We'll still give him time. And
yeah. So I know you mentioned it, and I even remember seeing, I think, a GPS track or something that you posted, but you pretty much looked for 3 days. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I believe it was 3 days. Yeah,
30 plus miles.
Yep, that's my GPS. And so Lorenzo, he probably had 30 miles, and our camera guy Mather probably had another 30 miles. It's just,
gosh,
wow.
I don't
know.
It's
never fun.
I wasted a lot of Lorenzo's hunting time too, but it was he was like, this is a giant deer. We have to do everything we can to find it. And I've even thought right now maybe I should have went back later. It's such a far drive to Colorado, but I was like, man, is it there? And we even tried contacting some people we knew who were hunting in the general area, and they said they might try to jump up there to look for him and help us out. But
yeah,
I haven't heard anyone turning up a 200-inch deer yet. So
wow. Well, it doesn't sound to me like it was necessarily a big factor, but A, you kind of mentioned it at one point, and B, I know that people are probably going to be asking this and for sure thinking it, but what broadhead were you using, and would you continue to use that?
Yeah, I was using the Muzzy Trokar 3-blade.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fixed blade head, and I've used Muzzy forever. I shot my moose in British Columbia with it at 65 yards, and it was sticking out the other side of the moose. And this has always been a trusted head for me. But I keep thinking in the back of my head, okay, yeah, fixed blades have always worked well for me, but what would have happened if I had a mechanical? What if I had a 2-inch cutting diameter right now, 2.25 diameter?
Mm-hmm.
Would that have opened them up on the opposite side, or clip something else as it was exiting?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing I'm weighing in my head. Like, do I switch? Do I continue shooting fixed blades, or do I go mechanicals?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough call on penetration versus cutting diameter. You never know which one you're going to need.
Yeah.
I mean, I shoot an 80-pound bow at 77 pounds, and I shoot a 439 grain arrow, and a lot of weight up front, and I shoot at targets around here, and they're super hard to get out of. I have such high momentum, so it's like I normally dial it just to punch through things, and so it's like just that cutting diameter right now is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you put a crazy amount of thought and research into your setup and really every aspect of your setup. I mean, when I became aware of you, I think, a few years ago, we were both writing for GoHuntcom and kind of in some of the same circles and whatnot. Like, you were always super technical and super analytical about things. So I have no doubt that you're not just flinging stuff out there untested. That's for sure.
Exactly. So, it's a passion of mine for sure.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of one thing we wanted to talk about. One thing that I'm interested to hear about and your thoughts on. This time of year, the new bows have pretty much been announced. There's still some to come for sure. Mm-hmm. Guys are getting into the later seasons, and then maybe here soon around New Year's, some guys might be thinking about upgrading or something like that. But in your mind, what are some of the specifics you look at in bow setup? And maybe it's arrow and broadhead as well, but specifically for Western hunting, the type of hunting you do, and then specifically for, the situations where you might have a little bit of a longer shot and things like that. Just kind of give us the general rundown of specific characteristics that you're looking at. Because I know, like I said, you've done a ton of research.
Yeah, so basically I like, any bow, the longest axle I can get. Like, I have a 32, and I think on my Hoyt this year it was like 32 and a quarter, felt right for my draw length. So it stretches way out there. So I need, like last year I had a Hoyt Nitram 34 long draw. Mm-hmm. And so if I can get a 34-inch bow, 7-inch brace height, that I feel is the optimum setup for me. I mean, I shoot great with a 34-inch bow. I had a 32-inch bow for a while when I shot bear archery, and I mean, it was 32-inch bow was good, but I still felt I was missing something when I was shooting the longer range, and it just didn't feel as forgiving as I wanted it to be, because I knew there was something that, hey, I could be a little bit better, have a little tighter group. I felt a little more forgiveness there. So
do you think that guys with shorter draw lengths can still benefit from that longer axle to axle, maybe something closer to 33, 34 plus versus the super short trend of 32 and below? Or is that in your mind just a factor of your long draw length needing a longer axle bow?
I mean, I still think that anyone can benefit from a longer bow. I mean, most of the guys here in the office, I helped set all their bows up this year, and when they were ordering new bows, I had them all order 34-inch bows. I mean, I was like, don't stay away from the short axle bows. You can still shoot a longer one. It's all the reasons why. It's like, well, if it could benefit you, why don't you just do it? I was like, yeah, 32-inch bow could work, but 34-inch bow, you could shoot a little better groups. You can have a little better forgiving. You throw a broadhead on there and you actually shoot at something. We can all shoot paper all the time, but it's like, get a broadhead on there, get an animal out there in your drone, rush it. Like, I'd rather have a good solid platform to, build off of than, have something that's just super souped up and shoots really fast and is, trendy and everything. But I'd rather stick to a, forgiving platform and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then you mentioned brace height as well, being around 7, which, kind of is a kind of middle road or somewhat of the standard. Have you done testing with shorter, like 6-inch brace heights in that?
Not a whole lot. I had a few friends with some Bowtechs back in the day who I know I'd shoot those, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'm still on the trend, and maybe it's old school thought, but the more target guys I look at, I kind of take it like I'm a bow hunter, but I look at every single target, guys. Last year living in Vegas, I went to the Vegas shoot. I've always shot 3D and everything, but it's like I take anything that target guys do and I try to turn it into, okay, they use this. This is what they're shooting great. Well, I'm going to transfer that over to bow hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it works for them. Yeah, it's a totally different sport and all that, but still, they do things for a reason, and they shoot super accurate groups, and tons of money's on the line. So it's like I want to convert that over to bow hunting and geek out in that aspect. And
so two questions now that you brought up that target side of things, and they're very related. One is, what do you feel about overall weight, like mass weight of a bow then? Because obviously target bows, just talking about a larger geometry bow, and then leading into my second point of stabilization, you have like the Hoyts in that who push like the carbon in a really light bow. Do you think that's a good thing in terms of stability and accuracy? Or is there a sacrifice there? And then secondarily, talk about your stabilizer setups a little bit.
Yeah, I still feel a light bow you are sacrificing. I mean, yeah, the carbon bows are great. They're super light. I mean, you can still stack weight on them, but it's like, that you can make things move in the wind when you're light. I have my bow right now. I always have run a 14-inch front bar with 2 ounces of weight out front, and I have a back bar as well with 16 ounces of back weight. So I'm kind of not the norm in a bow right now, and it kind of sucks to pack around a lot. So I usually put my stabilizers in my backpack when I'm hiking, and then throw them on my bow when I get ready for a stalk. But
gotcha.
So you're only running 2 ounces on the front?
Yeah, 2 ounces on the front with the 14 bar, and then 14 in the back, or 16 in the back. Sorry.
Huh. Wow.
So I mean, I took that right. I mean, I've never shot competitively at tournaments, but I usually always do like the little circuit here back in Montana, and I was so used to shooting with weight, and then I threw it on my hunting bow, and I was like, man, my groups are so much better when I can hold steady. And I've always tested the angles of my bars. I've even done the whole putting a laser pointer on my stabilizer and seeing how long I can hold it with different weights and different angles of my back bar. And so taking a lot of like the tournament stuff, the super geeky tournament stuff, and converting it into bow hunting and figuring out if it works for me or if not, if it's a gimmick. And kind of always been one of those guys where I'll build a part for my bow if I need to. I've had my brother back in Minnesota build me so many different like overdraw brackets for my rest. It's like ridiculous. I couldn't ever find anything in the market that I liked. I always liked shooting a little bit of an overdraw, and I never really had anything until this Hamsky overdraw came out, a couple years ago. So it's like what they're doing in tournaments, I'll definitely, use in bow hunting. It seemed to, benefit me in, any sort of shooting situation, whether it's antelope in the wind or it's, when I shot my mountain goat in British Columbia, it was a super steep angle. And I, looking back on it, I'm so glad I had, sidebar weight to, help even everything out when I was at full draw. And I don't know. I think there's more benefits than negatives with, stabilizer weight and balancing your bow. I mean, yeah, you can have a super light bow and pack it in there, but at the end of the day, that's the thing that's going to, kill the animal. And I'd rather have that be, a well-running hot rod than, something that just, goes from 0 to 60 really fast.
Yeah. Cool. So what else? We've hit, I guess you just mentioned rest there and stabilizers.
Hit on the overdraw. Sorry to cut in.
No, you're good.
Because that's when I was talking with Matt Davis from Hoyt. We were briefly talking about torque tuning, and that was a completely new concept to me. And that was, you can basically play with the distance of the rest from the pivot of the riser as well as the sight, and potentially apply torque to it. Have you played with that at all? Is that why you're shooting an overdraw?
Yeah, I've definitely touched on it. I've read a lot of stuff from Tim Gillingham over the years, and I mean, I haven't done probably enough do as I should of torque tuning. I definitely move my my overdraw bracket in and out, and I also move my sight to compensate. But it's like a lot of things I'm doing for the overdraw bracket. I've played with like the distance, and then also played with the arrow spine. And since I'm shooting such a basically it's like back in the day when you just cut your arrow, so make it go faster, make your arrow go faster. But I'm mainly doing it, cutting it to get my spine correct. So I shoot a 250 spine, and back in the day I had to shoot whatever it is, 30-inch arrows. Now I'm able to shoot a 38-inch carbon-to-carbon arrow through my overdraw, and it sits slightly behind my wrist, and that's where I found my groups have gotten best. I mean, yeah, I guess back in the day I was torque tuning and not knowing it, and then I started reading more about Gillingham and what he was torque tune, and then I'm like, well, okay, it makes sense now. Someone's actually putting the right technical jargon to my method, I guess. And I've always shot an overdraw for as long as I can remember. It's probably 2009, I think I started shooting an overdraw.
Wow.
And I had super old ones I found on like Archery Talk. I bought from guys, and then I had my brother start. I have all these crude drawings of, hey, Bryce, can you build me an overdraw bracket with this and put holes here with these, size threads? And he would weld it up for me and grind it all up. It was kind of cool looking. But.
Very cool.
That's wild.
Yeah, I want to get into that torque tuning concept more because it still just baffles me. For the longest time, I was trying to get my rest as close to directly above my hand as possible.
Yeah.
Just thinking that any torque that's going to be applied by my hand, the further away whatever is, your rest or your sight will just get magnified.
Yeah.
But somehow there's a counterbalance in there, and I don't fully wrap my head around it.
Exactly. Then you throw in the Hoyt Tech riser, and that adds a whole new element to try to get on that riser, because that's where some of the custom overdraw brackets have come in, trying to get around that. But
Interesting. So what? How much FOC are you running on your arrow?
I think I'm right at 13% right now.
Okay, so not crazy high.
Not crazy at all.
I guess you mentioned though your arrows are quite long, so you do need a lot of weight even to hit that FOC with the length of your arrow, right?
Yeah, I have what did I have last year? I think I had a 32 grain. I shoot an outsert because I have those super small diameter Black Eagle X impacts. So it runs an outsert on the end. I also take piano wire, and I shove piano wire, in the right before I put the outsert on. I have a little section of piano wire I cut and I've weighed out and glued that in there and try to get a little more FOC. But yeah, it's still kind of hard when I always want to keep my draw weight up. I don't know why. I have that hard hittingness in my head. So I try to do 77 pounds and try to match it still. So I've only been able to get 13%. I'm still trying to do more this year. I'm trying to revamp some things to try to get that up a little higher. But
Interesting. Yeah, I've played around with FOC, and I've never seen that big of a difference. Whether I was 9% or 15%, seemed to fly. My groups never really changed that much, so I've never. Yeah.
You're one of those guys to go up to like 18, 20% and see how it flies?
I don't think I've ever gone that high, but there's guys that do it and swear by it.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those Alaska. What is that? Those arrows from that guy in Alaska that are like 650 grains. I'm like, how can you even have an FOC? Because it's all distributed weight. I mean, it's throughout the shaft. I mean, they do run heavy heads, but it's like, wow.
Yeah, that's Alaskan bow hunting supply, and I believe their arrows are tapered somehow. I don't know the exact how that works. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. So what about a sight, Brady? What do you like to do? Do you do a single pin and kind of go the target style, or are you still running an adjustable multiple pin, or what's that set up for you?
Since I moved out west right away, I bought my first single pin adjustable. I've never want to go back to anything else. I mean, right now I shoot the black gold. I believe it's called the pure driven single pin.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've been using that one for quite a while. And I mean, I'm so used to being able to slide my sight and adjust it and, take the time to, do it. I don't know. I just love that whole comes back to that accuracy thing about target bows. It's like, I'd rather not gap pins. I hate gapping pins. I hate the thought of gapping pins. I hate clutter. I just like looking at one pin and being able to put it on my deer and put it right where I want it, not say, I need to hold it 3 inches high, right above his back, in between my 40 and 60 yard pin. And
So has that ever cost you an animal? Like on your Colorado buck? I mean, he's at 43, 45. I mean, you just range and dial your sight.
Yep, I still had the hand on the dial as I was going both ways, and I mean it probably cost me movement a lot. I'm sure I'll get busted eventually. And it cost me a Montana deer once. I was a little slow on ranging it and getting ready, and then the buck ended up busting out of there. I mean, it definitely has a negative right there. I mean, I was a guy, negative with elk hunting. Elk are way out there and they come all the way in, but it's like I kind of run all the archery programs and kind of figure out where my arrow is gonna, how much, like 3 inches high and 3 inches low at what distance, and so I can kind of hold it at I think my distance is like 34 yards. That seems to pretty good out to 40, and then all the way under.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've always struggled with. I always run a 5-pin slider I just think it's going to cost me an animal someday, and I know with the range I'd definitely be more accurate with a single pin. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think mainly it comes down to clutter for me too. I mean,
right. Yeah, nice clean sight picture, less target panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what do you think? I mean, again, you've gone, obviously, as listeners have heard, really deep into the research and tweaking and all kinds of things like that. At the same time, I'm curious for the guys who don't do that, who haven't got that deep yet, but are looking to make improvements to their setup, whether that's from a gear perspective or maybe just dialing things in. What's some of the low-hanging fruit in terms of gear that they can change, or sort of like tuning things to check that would make the biggest improvement for guys who've been, somewhat casual about their setups?
Like, two things definitely come to mind. I mean, my eyes got opened when, I always take my bow to a pro shop back in the day and have them do the work for me, and then like realizing like, hey, there's got to be, got to be able to pump more accuracy out of this thing. So like when I started building my own arrows, I started slowly with all my stuff. Now I build everything. But yeah, building my own arrows was like the number one thing I think that ever helped me with confidence, accuracy, starting to know your bow by like building your arrows, figure out what's going to work for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, once owning an arrow saw and, getting a fletching jig, those are like the two biggest things I think you can do to improve your setup. I mean, that's a whole lot of everything you do. Tune your arrows to your bow, or tune your bow to your arrows. It's like, that's a big part of it. And then, slowly, just figuring out how to run your bow, what's going to happen when you're, 30 miles from the nearest town, even longer than that, some long gravel road, and something breaks in your bow and you have to go back to your truck and fix it. It's just like figuring out how to do things was like a huge eye opener to me, then gaining a new like appreciation for bow hunting. Cause like once you know how to work it, it's like owning a sweet car and, you take it to the auto shop all the time to get all the work done. It's like, man, you can just work on it yourself. And, like how people do soup up muscle cars. And it's like, it's kind of the same thing. Like my dad was all big into that stuff. So maybe that's what, it's in my head right now. Like he soups up muscle cars, I soup up bows. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely there's just nothing like knowing your gear well. As you mentioned, whether that's building your arrows or even just knowing your bow versus kind of wondering, I don't even know how this thing really works, Like, yeah, I draw it and let it go, and that guy kind of set it up for me, but what is center shot, and what does spine really mean? And I think once you, take the time to research those things, it leads to confidence and, obviously makes you much more capable to, like you said, diagnose what goes wrong or even fix it if it breaks.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's kind of transition, from that stuff, which was awesome, to kind of where you're at now. As we mentioned, you've done writing and that in the industry. You mentioned you used to work up at Glacier. Kind of what's been your background on the outdoors from a professional perspective, and then kind of how you've gotten into the hunting industry, and we'll then talk about where you're at now.
Yeah, so I kind of mostly started moving to Montana for college. I went to school for fisheries biology, ended up eventually landing a job back in Montana when I graduated, and was a fisheries research biologist for United States Geological Survey. So that was basically opened my doors to the West, living in Montana and doing all that. And I started at the same time, kind of heavily. I was like, I always go on hunts and come back and don't have enough photos, and, I want memories. And so I always just started, taking a notice into photography, and, bought my first DSLR camera and, worked up from there, and, ended up documenting a lot of my hunts and photos and posting them on social media when social media was just kind of starting, and kind of got noticed that way. And then I'd always write a bunch of, descriptions on my hunts and whatnot. And, I had guys reach out to me, hey, I want to start writing and do some small stuff. So I was kind of like, social media was a big part of me getting into, definitely where I'm at right now. Cause, the whole reason, after all, I started writing, freelance stuff for GoHuntcom and a couple other places. And then, kind of selling some of my photos to people here and there and using them for ads and whatever else they wanted to do with them. And then, social media kind of led me to where I'm at now, working for GoHunt. I about 2 years ago now. Lorenzo just, randomly contacted me through Facebook and said, "Hey, I've been checking all your stuff on Instagram, and we're starting up this new thing called GoHunt, and wonder if you want to, interview and check us out, see what we're going to be all about." And so yeah, just ended up, flying down here for an interview, figuring out what the company's going to be about. And after seeing the product and demo, which was very new and everything was, not developed what it is now, but, blown away enough where I just gave up Montana, gave up my fisheries biologist job, and now, work for GoHunt full time. And, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made to, leaving Montana was definitely tough, but it's like, this is, going to do what you, always kind of love to do. I love being outdoors. Fishery stuff is great. I got to hike around a lot, but it's like now I get to, talk to hunters all the time, do like a lot of photography stuff. I can do writing even more than I've ever done before. And I love to write and love to, share whatever knowledge I have in my head and try to spill it on a computer screen for people to read. But
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So before, I think we might have Lorenzo hop on here and talk about some new stuff, but I'd just love to hear from your perspective, just what you mentioned, just to explain GoHunt to our listeners. What was it that you saw in this new company, in this new product when you went for an interview that made you excited and willing enough to kind of leave where you're at and give this thing a shot? So explain what GoHunt is and then what got you so excited about it.
Yeah, so the first we offered it was our insider program. It was a tool set to help you research and plan your hunts. Like, back in the day, everything was in magazines, and you have like, oh, these top units are great to apply for. These are the best spots. Go here. And when I got down here, they showed us what we're going to really do, and it was like mapping and describing in detail every single unit and every species of potentially all the western states. So like, you break down what you're going to like. So I've never been to Nevada before, and I was from Montana. It's like, okay, I want to hunt in Nevada. I want to hunt this unit. What does this unit offer for me? And it just breaks down the terrain, the habitat, the harvest success rate, the tag quota, everything you need to know without having to like, okay, dig through the state data, dig through this data. And I was just like, this is going to blow up. And it's not just the best units in the state. It's like every over-the-counter unit, every easy draw unit,
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, wow, this is going to be all at your fingertips for a subscription to go on, research your hunt, and sit there. And I was like, this is going to be something cool to be a part of. It's not just like magazines where you're limited on space, you're limited on, what you can say about units. And I was like, this is definitely something I want to be a part of.
So it's using that state published data in terms of things like, draw odds and harvest rates and things like that. But it's obviously putting it all right there where it's really easy to find versus spending hours jumping from site to site or digging for the right places. Is that right? So it's using the data, but just obviously making it much more accessible.
Yeah, using the data, but then also have every unit has been written by a hunter who has like on the ground experience hunting that unit. So it's not just like, it's more in depth than you would find on any state website. Like it breaks down, kind of where to access units, not giving out people special spots, but like good tips you need to know, like, okay, hunting mule deer in this season, this is going to be beneficial for you. Hunting this unit over here, these tactics are a little different, and breaking that all down, allowing you to, make up your mind on like to filter basically where you want to hunt between a unit next door or a unit over here, and just, making your life a lot easier.
Yeah. It's awesome. So what is the model for that? Is it like a yearly subscription? Then you just get access to every state, every unit, and all the information all together, all species, or how's that kind of broken up?
Yeah, it's a $149 yearly subscription, and it gives you access to everything. Every time we roll out, we start with 5 states, and now we have 8 total. And every time we roll out the new state, it's automatically included in. Every time new information pops up, it's automatically there. We break down every year all the application strategies, how to work the draw system, how to work the state, how to burn like areas to burn your points. Like, okay, you should try to apply for this area, if you have a certain amount of points, and just kind of like all that, like it's exclusive to insiders only. We also have like tons of free content too, which like skills articles, hunt stories, kind of like things you are normally accustomed to seeing in magazines, and the insiders just like the whole big juice of, hunting in the West, basically.
Yeah. That's awesome. And it's GoHunt.com.
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
Cool. So now we have Lorenzo on the line. You're the founder of GoHunt.com?
Yes. Yeah, I'm the founder and president of GoHunt.com. The idea started in early 2013, and I believe Brady was just telling you kind of the story of how we found him, and we picked up some other guys along the lines of just kind of following and seeing who was doing the best in the industry, just kind of on their own with their own passion, and put a right team together, and kind of made some magic happen here.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, we're excited to have you on because I hear, according to Brady, that you're going to kind of spill some secrets about new stuff that's not even quite out yet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Thanks for having me on, too. Yeah, we have been hard at work this year, really, really trying to be what this Insider project originally intended to be. And what I mean by that is, in technology, and when you're releasing a new product, you have to start with a foundation. And our foundation was strong enough and built strong enough that we knew people would find the information we had very valuable. So we released it and had a really good kind of rollout welcome to the industry about what we were doing and bringing everything online and kind of flipping the industry upside down and allowing the hunters to find their own information instead of having to go through, the hunting consultant thing or booking agents or, all those kind of those black hole things that you see. Mm-hmm. And, we did it the right way and people loved it. So we started with this foundation and, we were still hard at work and we continue to stay hard at work. I mean, innovation is something that we're constantly talking about here and something we're committed to. So we're always making the product better. And over this last year, the entire office has been hard at work trying to get this new rollout ready. And finally here in the next, call it 30 days or so, we have the true meetup of what this original product was intended to be. And it's basically, the best form I can put it into to make it make sense is it's like cars.com or apartments.com or anything like that, where you really don't even have to know what state offers what or, the little nuances of each state, which are so hard to keep in mind. The difference between Nevada and Utah, even though they're neighboring states, is just crazy. They're both do their draws so differently and the types of hunts they offer are just so different. So now you can just go to Insider here in the next 30 days and you literally will be able to filter through just what's in your head. I want to hunt with a bow. I want 60% harvest or better. I want 170 plus average potential. I want a 27 to 100 at least buck to doe ratio. I want few tags in the unit and basically can filter down just what's in your head and certain dates or anything like that. And we will show you within the state what is offered to meet your exact criteria.
Wow.
So it's like a decision matrix basically. And then
yeah, that's a good way to think about it. I mean, you go to cars.com right now, you say, I want a red Ford with, less than 30,000 miles and, V8, whatever you want. And it kind of spits out the results. And that's exactly what we'll be doing for you.
And then you have a money back guarantee if you don't fill the tag, right?
We'll get there one day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny you say that. We're always throwing around the wildest ideas to try to add value to our membership. Our biggest thing is we want our members to feel valued. It's something that I don't think, I hate to be, putting everybody in the same bucket here, but the industry never really has made the consumer really feel valued like, Amazon has done and some of these other big companies, and that's what we're kind of setting out to do. So we're always coming up with these wild ideas about adding value. And I'm not going to necessarily say we came up with that one, but we've definitely had some interesting ideas thrown around.
Yeah. One question I just thought of as you were talking about that. So in addition to the published information with the Insider platform, and then now these new sort of search guide tools and decision matrices, does the Insider membership give you access to ask any questions and like get an answer from like a consultant, if you will, or some sort of expert, in terms of like, I'm looking at this Insider information, but have, A and B follow-up questions? Is there anywhere that they can go with that?
Absolutely. We have insider@GoHunt.com as an email that basically we are always encouraging people to reach out to us through that. And the reason why is when it's documented in writing, we can enhance the product to answer that question for future use. A lot of the times, hunters are smart people. They know what they want and what they're looking for. And when we see a trend in the same question, we update the site overall and make sure that question's answered, so that our members don't have to go through that extra step in reaching out to us.
Cool.
So they email quite a bit, and we're always here to answer questions. I'm not going to necessarily say we're consultants by any stretch of the word, but whoever has the most reliable information or the most the most validated information, we get them in touch, whether that's a friend of GoHunt or one of us here in the office.
Cool.
Gotcha. Brady mentioned you have 8 states now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which 8 states are those?
So we have Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, New Mexico, and I think that's 8.
Yeah, I think so.
Gotcha.
It's kind of a blur right now, but we're working on Oregon like crazy. We're working on Washington like crazy. Like I said, we're constantly going to be adding to this product. It'll never be stagnant. So we have more states coming out. We have some more enhanced features coming out, and it's been a lot of fun. And it's fun to look back and see the team that we built. And Brady and I have become good friends. Went on that high country hunt, and just kind of what we've been able to do in the industry in less than a year is it's pretty humbling. It's fun to look back at.
Yeah. So in addition to, visiting the site, GoHuntcom, and checking things out, what if we have, say, one of those Washington, Oregon guys? Is there a way that they can subscribe to know that when new states come available or things like that, they're not ready to become an insider because those states aren't ready, but some way that they can sort of automatically receive updates from you guys?
Correct. Brady was touching on that free part of the website, that free content that we produce. We also have a newsletter to those people who want to sign up and just kind of stay informed with us.
Okay.
And we have a lot of people that do that. They just sign up for our newsletter, and then we always keep people in touch with what our plans are and when we're going to be rolling things out.
Cool.
Very cool.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you. I hope I made that make sense. We're pretty excited about all these new enhancements. So I think it's going to be good for the overall industry and good for our users.
So what shows are you going to be at?
Yeah, we'll have a good presence for demos and any questions any users will have and want to meet us. We'll be at RMEF here in Las Vegas. I believe it starts December 3rd. And then we will be at Sheep Show in Reno. We will also be at ISE in Sacramento. Those are both in January, and then we'll finish up the show season with Western Hunting Expo in Utah, in Salt Lake City, Utah.
So Brady, what's the best way that our listeners could follow you, whether that's on social media or whatever you kind of prefer to stay active on these days?
I mean, I'm huge on Instagram, Facebook. Instagram, I believe it's just my name, Brady_J_Miller. And on Facebook, just Brady Miller, and, kind of keep everyone updated on there. I also, I run all the GoHunt social media, so you see all the articles on there and stuff like that. And I'll, reach out to people on GoHunt and, talk back and forth on there. So it's definitely keeps them busy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for your time, man.
Hey, appreciate being on. It's good to talk to you guys again. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's good talking to you, Brady.
Thanks for listening, guys. Be sure and send us your feedback by leaving us a review or shoot us an email to podcast@exomountaingear.com, and check out the show notes for this episode at exomountaingear.com/14. That's 14. Thanks.